Hello, world. Today is Monday, March 16th, 2026. This is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker, coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, on the east coast of the United States. Today, the weather in this area has a special weather statement until Monday, 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And also the temperature today, the high will be around 40 degrees. Windy, mainly cloudy, highs in the low 40s and lows in the low 20s. This special weather statement has to do with as follows. We have storms overnight here with rain. So, snow showers and some snow squalls will move through the region today. And snow squalls, heavy snowfall will lead to reduced visibilities and hazardous conditions. Use caution when driving. Conditions may change quickly and roads may become slippery. Localized swaths of around 1 inch of snow will be possible. So that's the weather alert on that one. Sunrise today will be at 7:47. It's 6:44 a.m. presently. Severe weather, likely Monday for millions. Wind chill will make low feel like 11 degrees. Expect winds up to 20 miles per hour. And temperatures much lower than yesterday by 34 degrees. And yesterday it was 74 in this area. And Saturday they had the St. Patrick's Day parades. St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow, Tuesday the 17th, officially. And on through the week, the temperatures vary. Wednesday, 48. Thursday, 60. Friday, 68. The weekend is 70s. And 66. Currently, the wind is 18 miles per hour. And surprisingly enough, the air is dry, which makes it feel like a good day. And again, sunrise at 7:47 a.m. and sunset at 7:46 p.m. So that's the current weather for this area. And Kentucky. Okay, I was last here on February 25th, according to my notes. And I shared with you a few things. One was an article that addressed the Me Too movement, and 5 years later. And another one that had a list of 201 names of those men that had been removed from their positions due to the Me Too movement. The second one that I shared with you had to do with Donald Trump's years of owning the beauty pageants, Miss Universe, Miss USA, and Teen USA, and is subsequent affiliation with Jeffrey Epstein during that time period. I suggested that you read that article because it had a lot of details with pictures that confirmed their activities, along with modeling agencies from outside this country that were involved in those pageants. So it kind of boiled down to being consistently 10 judges. And those were the people that were involved in these activities. So I know I mentioned it was about an hour read or plus. Some of you may have taken the time to consider information pertinent and involved yourself in reading it. Maybe others did not. But be that as it may, the information is still there, accessible on the media. So where we are now is more things going on. So since February, I had been trying to keep up and keep aware of what was going on. So we know that we're involved with Israel in a war with Iran, and Iran is one of 3 countries that are designated or have proven themselves to be involved with terrorist activities. That'd be Iran, Iraq, and Syria. And you know, Syria has attacked Israel on several occasions in forms of retaliation for things that have gone on. And their history of terrorism, surprisingly enough, goes back to 1979 Islamic Revolution, the 2003 Iraq invasion, and the post-2011 Syrian civil war. Iran has been designated a state of sponsor of terrorism since 1984, often using proxies such as Hezbollah, while Syria and Iraq have historically acted as both state sponsors and later centers for transnational jihadist groups like ISIS. Just so you know. The other thing, from Tehran to Europe, terrorism risk after the killing of Iran's Ayatollah. That was the morning of February 28th. The United States and Israel launched a military campaign against strategic targets in Iran. As of 8 March 2026, missiles and drones continue flying within Iran and across the region as the U.S. and Israel continue their campaign inside Iran. Iran targets U.S. and Israeli personnel and assets in several Middle East countries. Israel continues its campaign in Lebanon, targeting Iran's proxy Hezbollah, and multiple violent non-state actors and terrorist groups launch attacks in support of Iran. Surprisingly enough, at least it was surprising to me, that considering the fact that Ukraine and Russia are still involved in the war, that President Trump would ask Ukrainian President Zelensky for help with the Israeli attack on Iran. But be that as it may, President Zelensky did step up, and he offered experts that would help them with the weaponry, particularly dealing with drone attacks and things of that nature. So that's kind of like where things are now with that situation. And then a lot of little miscellaneous things have been going on. SNAP recipients sue USDA over restrictions on soda, candy, and energy drinks. Now, I'm a senior citizen, so, you know, it's not like I'm spilling the beans, so I get as many government benefits as I can possibly, as I'm aware of. And SNAP benefits are kind of like across the board. On the other end, you have WIC, which is designated for children, pregnant mothers, and infants. So what has been happening is you take your benefit card to the store. For me, speaking personally, for me, I make my selection on food, and some of the items on the card or that the card has paid for in the past have been rejected. And my understanding was that food is food. If it's going in your body, then it's food. But it wasn't until I saw this article about soda, candy, and energy drinks that I realized that they are, you know, kind of splitting hairs about what's food and what's not food. So, you know, I asked the cashier, I said, well, what's going on? It's all food. I only had 3 items, and one of those got flagged, and I had to pay for it by another means. And I think that these are things, as it says here in this article, the National Center for Law and Economic Justice, a nonprofit, and 5 SNAP recipients from Colorado, Ohio, Iowa, Nebraska, Tennessee, and West Virginia filed the suit. They accused the USDA of violating the Administrative Procedure Act, which requires federal agencies to follow specific procedures when issuing regulations. So, had the USDA followed proper notice and comment procedures as required by law, SNAP recipients, retailers, and advocates would have sounded the alarm on the significant harms these food restrictions create for low-income people who rely on SNAP. At one time, it was just EBT, it was just non-prepared items, like you couldn't go and buy hot sandwiches and things of this nature, but anything that in the grocery store just about that you had to fix for yourself was okay. So we're going to see how this one plays out. Meanwhile, 22 states have received waivers from the USDA to restrict SNAP recipients from purchasing items the department classifies as non-nutritious, such as soda and candy, the department said. Alabama is not yet among them. So it's like, what does commercial about a Snickers bar or something? I'm not good unless I've had something to snack on. And that could really be true in certain matters of health. I know people that have diabetes, it's recommended that they keep hard candy, from time to time, depending on which way their sugar is moving or their glucose reading is showing. So it's a lot more to this than just meets the eye on that one. On the war, White House admits Iran war burned equivalent of half the U.S. Bitcoin reserve in 6 days. It says it's going to be a short war, just a couple of weeks. Estimating the $13 billion in the U.S.-Iran war spending in Bitcoin highlights BTC's potential as a hedge against military-driven inflation and fiscal strain. This is coming from Crypto Slate and dated March 12th. United States spent in the first 6 days of its war with Iran an amount equal to nearly half the current market value of the Bitcoin held by the federal government. The administration told lawmakers this week that the war cost at least $11.3 billion through its first 6 days, Reuters reported on March 11th. According to the report, the $11.3 billion estimate came from a closed-door briefing for senators on Tuesday and did not include the full cost of the conflict. So that was that. Jumping over to sports. This one is about Gilgeous Alexander, breaks 63-year-old NBA points record. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander said he gives the game everything after breaking the 63-year-old NBA record for the most 20-point games in a row. The reigning MVP scored 35 points for the Oklahoma City Thunder in a 104-102 win against the Boston Celtics, extending a sequence of scoring at least 20 points that began on 1 November 2024 and now stands at 127 consecutive games. The legendary Wilt Chamberlain held the previous record with a 126-game streak between October 1961 and January 1963. Now, moving over, that all came from Google. Moving over to Newsbreak, another outlet that I frequent for news and what's going on in the media. In that same light, Bam had an 83-point night where that placed him second to Will Chamberlain with his 100-point night, and right above Kobe Bryant with his 80-point scoring night. So congratulations to Bam. There's been some back and forth a little bit about that, but it is what it is. You know, points are points. I'm not going to call this odds and ends, but nonetheless, Rihanna's house had been shot up, at least 10 rounds. That person, the legal proceedings following the terrifying March 8th shooting at Rihanna's house have shed new light on the fixations of the suspect, 35-year-old Ivana Lizette Ortiz. So I think 10 or more rounds were fired into her house. So she's being charged accordingly. Jumping around a little bit nonetheless, but okay. It's 3. Okay, let's go this way. Epstein survivor issues public statement after billionaire Les Wexner testified in a closed-door deposition. So I'm just going to give you the titles. This woman here is saying that she was employed at this person's home, and that she had been assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, along with Les Wexner, and how it all came about again with Maxwell recruiting. She was told by Epstein that when she got her driver's license to use this person's address, and it went on from there. Calls for Donald Trump's impeachment pick up following report his administration will pocket $10 billion fee from TikTok deal. Remember how long we've been going back and forth about TikTok? Well, now they've got some money on the table. The cover-up is so brazen. Trump administration accused of breaking the law with sloppy release of Epstein files. Remember, there was, upwards of 1 million pages or more. Now they're saying there might be another 1 million pages coming. So we await for further developments. This was one I wasn't exactly sure, even though I read it. Arizona pastor found crucified in own home with crown of thorns on his head, related to some other accusations. More than 60,000 Washington Post customers canceled subscriptions after Jeff Bezos axed 44% of reporters. Harvey Weinstein says he'll never forgive Gwyneth Paltrow for making such a big deal over nothing, for asking the actress for a massage. Well, I guess you live and learn on that one. Here's one. Swiss Beats and Alicia Keys called out by his daughter's mother. Jana Sebastian alleges couple got daughter addicted to drugs and that daughter hit her. Now, I read this, and it says Swiss Beats 47 and wife Alicia Keys 45 are getting called out by his 17-year-old daughter, Nicole Dean's mother, Jana Sebastian 39. But the title is kind of misleading. Come to find out, the daughter had met somebody online, and things go as they have been told over and over. So this person that was approaching her wanted her to spend money on things like Uber, gifts, and things of this nature, wanted to go on trips and all of this type of thing. So it was the person that was trying to lure the 17-year-old daughter into these activities that was actually responsible for what was going on, not Swiss Beats and Alicia Keys. But the title was, not exactly as forthcoming as one would think. Hey, Lena James, Jada Pinkett Smith shows off her face card while confirming her return to a different world. The View fans think Whoopi Goldberg has lost her mind after she suggests Donald Trump's Iran war is a distraction from Nancy Guthrie's case. No common sense. Well, it's been more than a month now, and details are sketchy. Even I was thinking maybe Arizona, that close to the border, maybe they have a tunnel going on or something. Because a couple of years ago, when there was a journalist doing articles on the cartels, and I think I mentioned this already, that they had a tunnel running from Mexico to San Diego and came up inside this pallet manufacturing company. So I have no idea. 8 convicted in ICE facility shooting and first terrorism case linked to Antifa. America's math and reading scores tanked after schools ditched textbooks for screens, and AI could worsen the brain rot. Pros and cons. And human trafficking kingpin admits to smuggling 20,000 people into the U.S. Excuse me. Iran is considering reopening the Strait of Hormuz, but the one condition attached hands China a major financial win at America's expense. And this seems to be the case with everything. Prices are up, grocery store. We hear from President Trump that prices are going down for this or for that, but actually it's the opposite. And this is just another situation that proves that the consumer is the one that's carrying the bulk of what's going on. A closed-door Epstein deposition named powerful figures who allegedly fueled his wealth, but key questions remain, as they may for a while, depending on who is in charge. So Trump faces new impeachment calls after massive TikTok be revealed. Object corruption. Here's one about Elon Musk. Elon Musk's mom says billionaire's son has one towel, no food in the fridge, and she sleeps in the garage. Of course, this was one of his former residences, but nonetheless, if she's there, she said she left the one towel for Elon. We had the Oscars last night, but I didn't watch. I'm still appreciating Michael B. Jordan's awards related to the picture Sinners and other allocates from other organizations that he has been receiving, so that was plenty. And sheriff finally identifies motive of Nancy Guthrie's abduction after reports Savannah is questioning how much her spotlight put her family's safety at risk. This was one of those situations where, however many months ago it was, she did a family segment, and I think in some of the video clips it showed her mother Nancy's bedroom, and maybe various other parts of the house, so that's being looked at. But it still is a puzzle that after a month there seems to be no clues related to it. They've even, I think I read one place where they may have even wrapped Nancy up in a rug or carpet and took her out because of the blood that was on the front porch of the home. Here's one. Hegseth spent $93.4 billion in 1 month, Watchdog says, with purchases ranging from furniture to lobster tails as the war goes on. This is from Local Authority, now rundown. Anyway, 4 days ago. Washington. A new watchdog report is fueling fresh scrutiny of Defense Department spending after finding that the Pentagon spent $93.4 billion on grants and contracts in September 2025 alone, the highest single-month total for any federal agency since at least 2008, according to Open the Books. The nonprofit's review says nearly $50.1 billion of that total went out in just the last 5 working days of the fiscal year, when agencies often rush to use remaining funds before they expire. Report has shown attention because of some of the purchases highlighted in the data, including $225.6 million on furniture, $15.1 million on ribeye steak, $6.9 million on lobster tail, $2 million on Alaskan king crab, $1 million on salmon, roughly $139,224 on donuts, more than $124,000 on ice cream machines, and $98,329 Steinway grand piano, a $21,750 Japanese flute, and $12,540 for fruit basket stands. Open the Books also said the Pentagon spent $3.5 billion on services such as technical support and cable television, within a broader $5.9 billion information technology and telecommunications category. Well, that's just a little bit of catching up. What's happening, what's going on, not only here, but around the world. So, we just had a time change last weekend, and spring is at the end of this week. So I will leave you with that. This is The Sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker. That's it. #.